What is up, guys? It is Bob Blah Blah. Got some more Warframe from you, and I think I've got a pretty interesting topic today, guys. I want to talk about something within the human psyche and talk a little bit about history, but not in a boring way at all. I want to talk about evil and sheer evil in this world. But first of all, this gameplay, this is, of course, from Warframe, the game I introduced to you in my last video, and this game's awesome. If you haven't tried it yet, guys, if you have a PC, download it. It's free. It's a free-to-play game, and it is crazy. This game, basically, you're a space ninja running around, cutting people up, shooting them. You can snipe. You can do all kinds of stuff, and I'm still figuring out. It's an incredibly deep game. I'll give you an example of how deep this game is. So you see my person right there. That's called your Warframe. There's like 15 or 20 different Warframes you can get, and every one of them is fully upgradable. You have mod cards you can play, so like there's like probably 100 different mods you can play for your guns and your person, and you can modify yourself to make yourself better, kind of like perks if you're thinking about Call of Duty, except you can also like combine the mods and merge them together and fuse them. There's hundreds of different weapons to choose from. I mean, the game is so deep, it's mind-blowing. I think this is one of the most endless games I've ever played. By the way, if you do download the game, I will put a link in the description. Make sure you add me. My username is Bob Blah Blah 1978. In this game, I'm playing with subscribers. Pretty much all I play with is in this game is subscribers, because I don't really know anyone who plays this game. So it's if you want to play with me, here's your chance. Download the game, give it a try. It's a lot of fun, and like I said, it's free to play. But the mods are just incredibly deep. It's ridiculous. I mean, you can play this game, I think, forever. Literally, it's nuts. So the quality of play you get out of this game is just, or the depth of play is ridiculous. So this gameplay, we're just playing extermination. Basically, me and 3 other guys are running around killing everybody, which is my favorite game mode so far because it's really simple. And since I'm not very good at the game yet, I like simple. I can run around and shoot people, and I get that. So anyways, what I want to talk about today is evilness. Evil. The evil in people. And you know, it's a conversation that's always gone on. Is evil bred in people? Is it wired into your brain? Is it just what society tells you to do? And I think there's certain parts of it that are everywhere. And to give you an example, and where this comes up from is I was watching Game of Thrones last night. It was a brilliant episode and one of the most brutal episodes of a TV show you'll ever watch. And the show is set in a fantasy world, but it's basically set in medieval times in the real world. It's based around Europe's history. And when you watch it, there's all these brutal episodes, but there was an interview with a writer where he talked about how it's really not that brutal when you compare it to real life. Real life is insanely brutal. If you look at the real history of the world, human beings have been just insanely evil to each other, to animals, to the environment, to everything. And not just humans. I mean, nature is insanely evil at times. Animals are insanely evil at times. It just seems like it's part of the natural flow of things to be evil. And I want to talk about something. I mean, are we all evil? I mean, in our souls, somewhere deep inside of us, are we just evil people just waiting for that opportunity? And if we ever get it, we'll be evil? And I know it sounds weird, but if you think about like the Germans and you think about Nazi Germany, and they had millions of soldiers who were willing to do horrendous things to people, right? And they weren't all evil people. Most of them were regular people who worked jobs and took care of their families. But when the Nazi, thing started, they just got sucked into nationalism. And some of them just didn't have a choice. If you would have, stood up against the Nazis and you were a German, you said, no, I'm not going to, do these atrocities. They probably would have just killed you and your family probably. So you didn't really have a choice. But a lot of them never went that far. It's just that it became normal. It became normal to think of, for instance, a Jew as basically a subhuman that should be slaughtered and killed. And so are all of those Nazi soldiers evil? Were they evil, or were they just born at the wrong time and put in a bad situation? I tend to think that probably 95% of us are basically sheep at some level. Not necessarily sheep, that's not the right word. We're sheep, or we're just so scared to death that we're not going to sacrifice that much. So most people, if put into a position where, your country asks you to go do some atrocities, like, Nazis were asked to do, you probably just go along with the flow. And most people would hate to admit that they would. And in fact, let me know in the comments, what do you think you would do? If you were in Nazi Germany and you were a regular soldier, what do you think you would have done when you were asked to go and herd a bunch of little kids into a gas chamber to be killed? Honestly, I wish I could say otherwise. I probably would have done it. And there's like a tiny percentage, like 5% or less of human beings who are strong enough to not be taken over by that kind of thing. And it's just very few people. And I got to be realistic. Right now in my head, I think, yeah, no, I would have stood up to him and I would have died for what's right. And maybe I would have. I hope I would have. And I like to think I would. But in reality, most people didn't. The vast majority of people just go along with shit like this. And this happens throughout history, every war, every movement, every battle. If you think about religious battles, I mean, the Crusades and stuff, good, God-fearing Christians were willing to throw away basically everything that they were taught to go slaughter people if they didn't believe. you know, and it doesn't take religion. I mean, if you look at the communist movements, I mean, communists basically slaughtered millions and starved millions for their beliefs. I mean, people, once they get brainwashed, are willing to do anything. And so I guess the question I pose is, what makes us evil, or are we just meant to be evil? Is that just part of the human being DNA? And maybe not just human being DNA. Maybe the DNA just says we should all try to survive, and whatever the cost. If the cost is 1 million people, it doesn't matter. My goal is to survive for myself, and that's really in the biology, I think, of pretty much every being, whether it's a plant, an animal, a human, it doesn't matter. We all just want to survive, and I guess, I don't know, does that make us evil? The fact that we're willing to sacrifice almost anything and anybody, you know, to survive? Now, one thing that's interesting, I would hope, most parents will sacrifice themselves for their kids. Not all, but I think majority would, and I certainly would. And what's interesting about that is that's actually kind of biological if you think about it, because your goal isn't just your survival. Your goal is your species survival and your name survival and your your immediate species survival, meaning your relative survival. And so sacrificing yourself for your kids actually makes a lot of sense biologically. But anyways, guys, I kind of rambled on, but I just want to just talk about something totally off the cuff because it was on my mind, and I was talking with a buddy about it, and just why the fuck are we so evil? What is it that makes us kill each other, slaughter each other, and millions of people this year alone will be murdered and killed and by each other? It's just such a weird thing that happens, and I don't know, maybe human beings, and not just human beings, all animals were put on this earth, and it was meant to be brutal, and we're just lucky to live in an era where it's really not that brutal, and we're just a bunch of lucky idiots playing video games and watching TV most of the time. So anyways, that's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like topics like this, hit that like button, and leave me your comments. Let me know what your overall thoughts of all this rambling I did today, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy.